Right. As you will see, 50% of my bench is now wiped because they don't play in the Premier League anymore. I got Liz just because I knew he was owned by very few people. He was very unlikely to see a price drop. And now that he's out the league, he won't. So that's just something to note. Sells, very happy with. Where I took a slight risk, I would say, in my opinion, was the better option, but a risk against the template in the form of selecting Sell, who was potentially a minute's risk and wasn't anywhere near as popular as Henderson, hence why he's template. Getting a clean sheet after missing out so narrowly on a haul last week is magnificent, especially when Henderson only got a one-pointer. Wolves look good today in terms of their attack. However, I'm still quite comfortable keeping him for the near future, and he's not at the forefront of my mind for why this team potentially needs surgery. I think just keep him, play him against Wolves at home. Even Liverpool away, I see at least there's a ceiling with that game, right? If they are to do something, he'll have to accumulate a lot of saves, and he'll probably do that anyway. So I'm very comfortable with him, and there's not too much to be said there, apart from the fact that Forest defensively were good against Southampton. They didn't concede a lot of chances, if any at all. And there will be sides who go to Southampton and they will concede more chances. But the fact that Forest is, I guess, data from last year, their defensive data is sort of catching up to them in terms of the results and actually keeping clean sheets and not conceding a lot of goals is very, very promising. Now, here's the defense, which started off so well. We'll speak about Robinson first. I wouldn't say he's fixture-proof because he's not. But the threat that he poses within games, the fact that he's allowed to overlap and underlap at such a frequency, with his quality, especially his physical profile, right? He'll have no problem doing that throughout the game because he is such an athlete. Well, at least I always have a route to points in terms of attacking returns, right? Like, yeah, sure, Fulham conceded, but the fact that he can still get assists. Now, the assist is not a traditional type, right? Playing a sweeping ball over to Iwobi, who does brilliantly to progress, carry it, and then finish it off. That's not the usual type, but he put a great ball in for Muniz, which Muniz probably should have scored. And the fact that you get that threat throughout the game, I'm very comfortable keeping him now for even game weeks 5 and 6, where he has West Ham and Newcastle at home. Two good attacks. However, at home, I think he's definitely got the makings of someone who could continue a good run. So I'm very happy with him. Moving on to Gabriel, it's 2 clean sheets in 2. No bonus points yet, and he would have got 4 bonus points. Well, he would have got 4 additional points had he not got his yellow card. 1 for not getting a yellow card, and 3 for the bonus structure, which he was very close to getting at the top of had he not been booked, but that's fine. 2 clean sheets, and I'm very, very happy with that so far. I haven't seen as much threat just because I haven't had too many corners in the first 2 games, but I'm hoping that will increase as time goes by. Not much to say there, apart from, yeah, sure, Raya made some brilliant saves. I think that's part of having a great defense, though, and what we're paying for. I'm not just paying for the fact that Saliba and Gabriel are immense. I'm also paying for the fact that behind him, there's a goalkeeper that's going to win them points. But honestly, I don't see it as that lucky. I think it's just players living up to their quality and doing what they can do. No plans to sell. I know people are looking at relinquishing him because he's got Spurs away and then City away in 4 and 5. For me, especially Spurs away, I'm happy to keep. And they kept a clean sheet at the Etihad last year, right? Which shows that, at least to an extent, there is the possibility. I don't think it'll happen this year, but I'm still just not going to touch it. When we have issues elsewhere, there is no need to play such a patient game and move on Gabriel. Now, this is the first issue of the team, of which I'd say there's maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe 4. And this is the first one, Lewis Hall. A minute's risk. I was told by a lot of Newcastle fans, and this is my own fault, right? Because maybe I should have done some more due diligence. Maybe I should have thought about it in a different way. Maybe I should have just opened my eyes a little bit more and saw that he was a minute, especially with Lloyd Kelly at the club. But yeah, he's someone who you can't expect to start each and every game now. And I think Newcastle still have a few issues, especially away from home. At home, I'm quite comfortable owning him, and I imagine he'll play more games where he doesn't have to do as much defensive work and can get on the ball a bit more and influence the team in a positive attacking way. But away from home, where Newcastle have quite a lot of fixtures in 4, 5, and 6, I believe, where I was going to play him away from home, I think he's becoming a minute's risk. So that's why I was quite happy, and that was why I did the analysis on Robinson, because now that Hall's a minute's risk and I have problems elsewhere, maybe I can't take him out, but I can play Robinson continuously, and it's something for you guys to think about should you be in a similar predicament. But yeah, if I can get him out sooner rather than later, I would like to. I don't know where I'd go because there aren't too many appealing options at 4-5. Maybe double up on the Villa defense should Cash be injured long term. But that is probably not my primary issue. We'll see my primary issue in the next section, and we will discuss that at length in the transfer plan. Now, the midfield. C'est magnifique. Apart from NKUNKU, brilliant. Smith Rowe getting a 10-pointer is just gold dust at 5.5 million. I know it was a good fixture, but him to get the goal and walk away 3 bonus, absolutely brilliant. I love the fact that the goal was slightly different. If you saw my analysis preseason, one of the reasons I picked him was because if you looked at his goal catalogue at Arsenal, a lot of the goals were different. Sometimes it was going across goal with his left, sometimes it was going across goal with his right, opening his body up a little bit more, some finesse shot, and the fact that he's competent at a variety of angles and he's got the ball striking is very useful for his goal threat, especially when you're playing for a side that aren't going to generate as many chances as an Arsenal. You need to be competent in a wide variety of places on the pitch because you're not going to get as many chances, right? And when you do get them, and maybe the quality of them isn't as high because, you don't have the players that Arsenal have, you need to be able to put them away. And he did that, right? He didn't really have too much else throughout the game. Maybe Adama could have slipped him in when he cut it back. But regardless, a good finish and a different style to his usual one, which I really, really like. Son, I mean, like I said, I did the segment on patience and it really paid off. De Bruyne did very well and got out ahead, right? Scoring a 12-pointer. But Son to rack up 16. And to be honest, he wasn't that dangerous, I thought, in the game. But when you have someone of his finishing and the Van der Ven chance, I'll call it the Van der Ven chance, when he slips him in for, that wasn't an easy. I thought it was a very, very good finish. A lot of reasons. I mean, he just ran such a large distance, was slightly off balance, it was taken away from him. It was a very, very good finish, kept it down well. And then obviously press Pickford for the other. But the fact that he's just going to be in and around there, he's got penalties, and he's such a good finisher, well, I can just keep him now. And this is one of the reasons I had this premium mid slot in the first place with my team, was because I just knew that regardless of if I have issues elsewhere, I probably won't need to move on Son because there will never be too big of an issue. And scoring 16 points in a week like this is massive. So he will definitely be staying for Newcastle away, a team that you can definitely exploit with this style of play. I imagine that game could be end to end. And whenever Spurs turn up at St. James's Park, it's always a great game. Saka, I thought this guy is an absolute magician. Again, when Arsenal get him on the ball in those games that they're slightly struggling, he's the one who always makes something happen. He's the one that looks the most likely and the most dangerous. I could wax lyrical about him for so long, but the main thing is when he gets the ball, all of his actions are so positive compared to other players. He always makes something slightly different happen. And for that reason, like I said previously, season lock. Now, NKUNKU is the big issue, and we'll talk about him in the transfer plans, where he has his own dedicated set. I mean, with regards to the forward line, I have no issues with Haaland. Why would I when he scores me a hat-trick and gets me 34 points? Congratulations to those triple captains as well. Well done. I'm never selling this guy. I don't care about the fixtures in 4 and 5 and 6 that people are talking about. Oh, it's Arsenal at home and they've got Newcastle away and also Brentford at home, which can be a little bit tricky. No, I'm never selling him because as I've banged on about, he looks better. City look better. He's fitter, healthier. The system's better for him. Savio's here, which is really helpful for him for the reasons we discussed previously. And we'll do a little bit of analysis on that later. He's not going anywhere. Havertz, sure, he got 2-pointer. He could have got a lot more. I mean, there was one chance where Rice could have slipped him in. He had his own chance where he didn't do too well, where Rice did slip him in the first half. That foul on Emi Martinez in the first half, before the whistle was blown, he smashed it against the crossbar from about 2 yards out. He could have scored. He was always in and around. He made so many runs beyond the last line that Arsenal chose not to play. City do the same in bigger games where they don't take as many risks. But it's fine. I'm very happy to keep him. I really like the fixture in Gameweek 4. If he gets me a return in 3, I think I'm golden. And that's about it. I'm overall pretty happy with the team. The main talking points will be Isak, Lewis Hall, and NKUNKU, who we're going to get into on transfer. Right. A lot of you enjoyed this part of the video last week, so I thought I'd continue it. What did we learn from Gameweek 2 that we can take on that isn't just something that's likely to be applicable only in the short term, but rather the medium term? Number 1, João Pedro. I think he could now become actually a very good asset. He's not getting the same treatment from the new manager that De Zerbi gave him. It's far less ruthless. It's a lot more kind and it's a lot more supportive of him. When he plays 10, he'll play 10. And if Root is to come on, well, then he's likely to go to the 9 with Welbeck being unsustainable for 90 minutes within that particular system, I'd say. Goal threat is good because he's just got genuine quality. And at 5-5 with Ipswich at home in Gameweek 4, he's definitely someone I would consider as an enabler for the likes of Cole Palmer, should you wish to go there. Now, I have a different perspective on Bruno Fernandes to most people. Most people have quoted his XGI and been like, look, it's about 2, he should have some returns, etc., etc. And I disagree to a fairly large extent. Last year, when Darwin Núñez was fluffing chances left, right, and centre, no one was like, oh, owners are unlucky. They said it was bad finishing. Okay, well, in the first game, it's not like Man United generated loads of threat, right? Sure, he had one brilliant ball played to him by Casemiro, which he missed. And it was a great save by Leno, but he missed it. But was he really unlucky, or was it just your own player having a slight finishing deficiency, which he doesn't really have, but Man United have had for a while, and that was definitely something to be factored in when selecting him. Even the first chance, like, it was him who had a chance, and it wasn't unlucky, it was just poor finishing. Now, the assist against Brighton, yeah, sure, that is very unfortunate for a variety of reasons that are obvious. But I don't think you can solely put it down to the fact that he's been unlucky, because in open play in general, Man United haven't actually done too much. They haven't been a team that have been creating loads of chances, and they weren't last year. And even if you had the perspective that their build up and their creativity side of things was fine, which I disagree with, they still had a finishing deficiency, which Ten Hag spoke about preseason, and it hasn't gone. So with that in mind, I think if you've got him, I would really, really consider selling him, because at 8.5, likely to become 8.4 pretty soon, a lot of cash tied up when he's not performing, considering all of the other assets that are booming and the amount of assets that are only going to get better. Even Eze at 7 million, right? Palace section is next. I'm fine if I had him, because he himself is not someone who's had a sustained period of underperforming his underlying statistics, nor Palace had this massive finishing deficiency. And sure, right, they have problems at the moment, right? Especially defensively with Anderson leaving, Water not having what I think is in a destroyer profile next to him. Hence why Henderson, I'm not particularly bullish on. And I think if you can jump ship, I would do it sooner rather than later. Imagine you have more pressing issues. But still, if you don't, something to consider. Eze, I wouldn't be selling. I mean, the Chelsea fixture next is definitely one you can score goals. Then you've got Leicester at home after. Man United away, where there is definitely goals for the taking. He's so talismanic. He's still getting in brilliant positions, having a good amount of shots. Everything underlying-wise is fine. Performance-wise is fine. Just, I would say, keep the faith there. And that is a really unnecessary transfer, I think, especially with the next. We spoke about Robinson, and I don't really want to go over it again. But, yeah, his threat from open play is enough, whereby if the fixture isn't that good, you can still play him, because there is an assist there for you. And from the bonus points, I mean, he finished basically next to Iwobi, and Iwobi scored. Pretty big deal with the change in the structure. So it's looking good in that regard. Haaland, I mean, I've banged on about this analysis repeatedly. When you have greater wide threat in the side and attacking responsibility is shifted from a defender in a unicorn position to the wingers, the increased wide threat would just mean that the ball gets to the center a lot more, because they play a lot of structures which sit deep. And you can't score from really wide angles against deeper opposition, because there's too many men just crowding those angles for the shots. And then having the likes of Sabio, having the likes of Doku, who will beat their man one-on-one, and the ball will always, always, always have to come inside, because that's where the space is. And hence why last year against low blocks, when they couldn't do that, what did they do? They didn't score from wide areas, because you can't really do that. They pulled it back, Rodri, Foden, ball striking outside of the box. That is a newer way of breaking down a low block. And thus, I think, with so many weapons in their arsenal, him being fitter and healthier, they will be absolutely fine. They will be better, and he will score so many. The other thing is, now he has De Bruyne behind him. Look how big of a difference that made, right? Foden wasn't playing that ball from the left half space, deep in the left half space, to Haaland for a second goal. Foden wasn't whipping it in like De Bruyne was for the chance that Haaland had with the header, which Muric made a great save. And for that reason, especially with the lack of responsibility Foden will have this year compared to last, and more so on De Bruyne, I think if you're going without him, you really, really shouldn't be, in my opinion. Forest, again, I spoke about. I mean, last year, their data was there for them to rack up the clean sheets. And this year, they're profiting. I mean, they very easily could have got one against Bournemouth if it wasn't for Harry Toffolo's clearance going straight into Murillo. And now they did against Southampton without conceding many chances, which is great. I say Wood might have to go for a point I brought up in a video within preseason. Awoniyi banging on the door 70 minutes every game is not ideal, especially when you consider the output spread at Forest and the fact that they don't score too many goals anyway. I just think it takes up too much of a valuable spot for a guy that's not going to be able to score consistently due to the minutes, and he won't have too many chances created for it. But you could even argue, if there are enough chances, similar to United, they've got a bit of a finishing difference because they haven't been able to score. a lot of goals in so many games. Something I actually thought about preseason was just having a Spurs defender regardless, especially Porro or Romero, because even though they don't keep too many clean sheets, these two hold so much goal threat. At least Porro, let's say, output threat, right? Because he can get assists as well as goals. But Romero is such an animal from set pieces, similar to Gabriel. He's such a monster to deal with. And he's always in the mix. Even against Leicester, there were a couple where he could have scored. I think Romero will just get goals throughout. And similarly, Porro will get output because look where he's positioning himself, right? When Son was at 9, he was pretty much playing off him at times. And having a fullback in those positions with his technical quality will always lead to points. Regardless of like how Spurs are playing overall, he will always rack up points and be okay, and thus be decent for bonus as well. If they ever do keep a clean sheet, I know they kept one in Gameweek 2, but if they ever keep another clean sheet, because next 4 or 5 games pretty difficult to do so, well, then he's really in the money, and so are both of them. So if you're wildcarding or you're slightly differential route, you want to set and get defender, that's not too expensive. I think that Porro, and especially Romero, is probably a little bit underrated, especially at 5 million. I spoke about why Son costs a lot, right? Finishing and positioning and penalties, quality, etc., etc. Ipswich, Leicester, and Southampton. Everyone's profited against them so far, and it is a strategy that gets talked about every year. I would just pose it to you, just in case you haven't thought about it, whereby you set your team up in a way where you always have good cover for the teams that are playing the relegation-bound sides within the week. And I mean that with the greatest respect, right? But it does look unlikely that anyone else is going to drop apart from those three as things stand. But with that in mind, just consider that strategy. I would say it's a little bit difficult to constantly hop on and off, but if you want to get some players in position and be thinking about that before you make a transfer, it's definitely something to do. Now, with regards to Aston Villa, I'm still pretty bullish on Watkins. I thought the positioning's getting to was fine. I mean, he has obviously had some type of a hangover from the Euros, and he's just building up fitness. We've had pretty difficult fixtures to start with, but Leicester will be, I imagine, a lot more relaxed for him for a variety of reasons. He's getting minutes under his belt, the lungs and the legs, and I imagine he'll play 70, 75 against Leicester. I wouldn't be surprised to see him return. So I wouldn't count him out as people are doing. Plus, you can probably get him at 8, 9 now. It's always nice. Rodgers was brilliant in the game, and his progressive capacity is something I talked about last week, and it was so good. The only thing I wonder is, without having a creative next to him, which I think would be optimal for him, just because of the way he plays, similar to Gibbs White, he has some tendencies like him. Is he actually going to be in the positions to consistently arrive enough into the box, into the final third, without having to do so much of the leg work beforehand to actually generate the output to become a good FPL asset? And for that, I'm still not sure. I think you would probably have to interpret that on your own, that against the lesser sides, is he able to just arrive in those positions, and will the rest of the team do the work? Will Bailey come inside a bit more, provide for him by maybe, like I said, coming inside more, or being his man one-on-one? Would John McGinn do that? Or he play Jacob Ramsey, who I think could really help him as well? Those are things that I think you must think about. However, at 5 million, it's still a good option, and we'll come on to transfer plan section. Spoke about Arsenal pretty much all the points that are covered in the team review section. Newcastle, we'll go do Chelsea last. Newcastle, I still think they lack a creative field. Thus, against sides who are slightly more difficult to break down, Bournemouth probably aren't one of them away from home, as in when Bournemouth go away from home. But at the Vitality, I think they're a little bit more difficult because they're just a little bit more compact because of the pit size. Thus, I wonder, is Isak potentially an exit route? Someone like Watkins. I think the Spurs fixture is quite nice because a lot of transition-based football within that game. But let's say like Brentford home, or games like that where you don't have much opportunity to position, get Isak behind the line. I'm not too sure if he is worth the 8.5, especially when 2 of his best fixtures have already gone. Chelsea, I mean, scoring 6 was not something I expected as a Chelsea fan, but I'm very glad we did. The main thing I want to talk about is Palmer's positioning. At the top of that box, playing that almost second striker, but more so number 10 role, he'll have so many attacking actions in dangerous positions, and with his quality and the fact that he has penalties and the fact he has a good fixture on, he becomes a phenomenal asset. Now, I didn't expect him to play at the top of the box. I expected NKUNKU to do that, hence why I selected him with Palmer on the right. But after Madueke scored a hat-trick, after Chelsea have scored 6, there's no way either of those two are shifting position, especially when you saw the combination they had in this game, right? It's just for that reason, I'm super, super bullish on him, especially given he's got good expected minutes for the next 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, in the transfer plan section, we can talk about how we can potentially get him in. So I have quite a few issues on my side. I think Lewis Hall and NKUNKU being the main ones, but I'm also not super comfortable with Isak. And there's the potential for me to have to sell Son in Game Week 4 with Arsenal and Brentford, which I don't love, and the fact that he blocks Cole Palmer. Now, the one that I'm going to prioritize is NKUNKU for the fact that I think my defense can hold it out just with those three playing week in, week out for the short term at least. The player I'm looking to go to is Morgan Rogers. I think it frees up 1.5 cash. So if I ever do want to move Son to Palmer, I can do that. If I ever do want to upgrade the defense, I can do that. And Villa's next 4 fixtures are absolutely brilliant. And I'm probably just playing on those variables. I know I spoke about how will he be there in the box enough? Will he be on the end of moves enough to be able to be the one who scores the goals? Will the team dynamics be set up for him as opposed to him setting up for others? But given the fact that we've seen him against West Ham and Arsenal, what I'm hoping, and it is a hope, that against the, again, lesser sides, he has to do less progressive response because the ball can just do it for them. Like, you've got Onana, if he wants to drive a bit, he can, but mainly like Tielemans just those passes through the midfield. Again, you'll have maybe Ramsey off the left, or Bailey can carry a little bit more himself because he'll be able to get on the ball more, etc., etc., etc. And it's for that reason, this is the transfer I'm really favouring. The price is a big deal for me. I'm not interested in Bailey because I still don't trust his expected minute record. And from what I've seen, I'd rather have the player playing slightly more centrally. Now, I've got these 4 players at the bottom of the screen because they're all ones that I'm potentially up. Instead of Rodgers, could I just go a straight swap to Madueke? Madueke has never gone through a period of sustained attacking output. Obviously, this is a new manager, a new season, etc., etc. System, new dynamic. But I'm not sure I want to go there just yet because I still prefer the Villa fixtures and I'll get some cash out of Rodgers. Quite a bit of that. I think I'd be taking a little bit of a risk with Madueke. I expect him to return over the next 5 a decent amount, but I just think with the fixtures and with the price tag, I don't want to get blown away by the hat-trick because other teams aren't going to play like Wolves did in the second half. It's not going to be as basketball-like. So I'm leaning towards Rodgers. However, I don't think it's a bad option. And I think the hype is fairly justified. Like I said, I expect him to return. Not to the same level, obviously, he did at Wolves, but I think he'll do well. So if you are looking at going there, I think it's fair. Watkins I spoke about. Isak out for him potentially in Game Week 4. Palmer I spoke about, making the move through the exit route of Son. And Eze is one I wanted to touch on for my own team. I could always take a hit and get Eze in for NKUNKU and downgrade elsewhere. I could bring in Eze in Game Week 4 and actually wait a week on NKUNKU and just downgrade someone like Son or Watkins. But I'm very unlikely to do that. It was mainly here just to tell you that I would wait if in that position because I think he has done so well. I know he blocked some spots, but I think he's played well enough. Palace have made enough for him and with him, whereby he will return. And that is all for today. I hope you have a wonderful weekend of what remains. Enjoy the week, and I shall see you tomorrow for another video. Goodbye.